biographical information he shared with me to prepare this introduction resonate with many of the same themes and experiences of my son Alex. Peter is an Eagle Scout with Troop 22 at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, a participant in the 2010 National Jamboree, and is a giver, as illustrated by his Eagle Project, where he supported the efforts of the food pantries, and a band member and Camp Decorah counselor. Peter, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to your presentation.
Good evening. My name is Peter Sidden. I'm a senior at Central High School here in La Crosse, and I obtained the rank of Eagle Scout this past February, and I'm honored to be here this evening to share what scouting has meant to me. As a Cub Scout growing up in Connecticut, I enjoyed earning my activity pins with my father, particularly outdoor events. I also enjoyed putting skits together with my friends and building relationships with my adult leaders. I looked forward to moving on as a Boy Scout and remember how proud everyone was when I earned my Arrow of Light. During my early years as a Boy Scout, I created some long-lasting memories and would like to share a couple of them with you now. My second trip with Troop 125 back in Granby was our first canoeing trip on the Connecticut River. In my patrol of 3 11-year-olds, I was newly elected patrol leader. We were responsible for our own food, cooking, setting up our tents, and other needs associated with an overnight camping trip. During the morning of our overnight campout, we tried making the pancakes that we had planned for the trip, blueberry pancakes. We thought it was a great idea, but we forgot the pan to cook them in. One of our brilliant older scouts suggested that we cook the pancake mix in a rather large pot as a pancake cake on our little camp stove. We ended up stirring the pancake batter so that it wouldn't stick to the pot, of course, for about a half hour, hoping the pancake batter would cook enough to eat happily, but that didn't happen within our time frame of patience for our food. We ate our half-baked pancake cake, which was a memorable experience on its own. After breakfast, our friend Michael had the duty of cleaning the pot, which took significantly longer than the attempt to cook our cake. Needless to say, we learned to cook our food ahead of time and just speed up what we wanted to eat during our trip. This was one of my earlier understandings of the meaning "be prepared," and this recipe has been renamed the pancake cake by my Granby friends. Right, I'd like to share a second story. It was about a month later. We were hiking on the Tungus Trail in northwestern Connecticut, and it was an 8-mile backpacking trip. Now, this was my first backpacking trip, and this time it was just Michael and I, both still 11 years old, never backpacked before, and we packed way too much stuff. My pack weighed about 35 pounds, and I was probably 120 pounds, maybe. And my friend Michael, his pack was 40 pounds, and he might have weighed about 70. So you can see this could lead to some problems. So we get started, and it starts raining. It rained all 8 miles, and it poured all 8 miles, but it was all right. And Michael and I just kept going and didn't complain. So the older scouts were inclined to help us out because we weren't the annoying ones. We get to our campsite. We set up our tent. It's soaked. So are we. We didn't really care because everything was soaked. And we tossed our backpacks in the tent and grabbed our food and our cooking supplies and cooked dinner, and we ate and packed everything up, and then we went into this little cabin that was right next to our campsite that we were allowed to use, and some of the older boys were still cooking their dinner because they had to set up some troop equipment. So they were eating their dinner, and we were just sitting with them talking about old times. And yeah, 17-year-olds talk about old times. But then one of our leaders walks in and tells us that for the next 3 hours, we have a tornado warning. So all 30 of us on this backpacking trip pile into this 20 by 14 cabin, little log cabin in the middle of nowhere, northwestern Connecticut, and we sat there for about 3 hours and just listened to the rain hit the roof and play cards and gather around little propane lanterns sitting on this cement slab that this cabin was on. And we just tried to stay busy and actually had a really great time. Surprisingly, I know, right? And then after, it must have been 11:15 when the rain finally stopped and the wind died down. Everyone was fine. We all went back to our tents, slept, and got up the next morning. Everything was still soaked, of course, because it had rained all day, and the day before. And we hiked our 1 mile out and drove home. And this was definitely a great memory in my past. And even though it was kind of a rough trip, I remember it fondly now. I remember having a lot of fun. All right, and I'd like to share one more story with you. It was from the 2010 National Jamboree. For the 2010 National Jamboree, I was as young as you could be going to the Jamboree. I was 14 years old, and the patrol had elected me as the assistant patrol leader. So I wasn't very experienced with leadership. I sort of kind of told people what to do in my patrol back home, and we kind of got stuff done, sort of. And I had never really experienced anything like serious as being a leader, but this time I did. It was late in the Jamboree. Our patrol leader for our patrol had a meeting that he had to go to one morning, so he couldn't be with the rest of the patrol to cook breakfast, to lead us in breakfast. So the rest of the patrol, all boys older than I was, most significantly older than I was, looked to me to lead us in the cooking and preparing of breakfast. And to be honest, I was a little scared. But I ended up showing my patrol that I could lead by delegating tasks and helping getting things done and being organized and efficient in my leadership. We finished almost an hour earlier than was expected of us, and we had a really great time doing it. So, since it was so successful, the rest of my patrol, the rest of the Jamboree, really looked to me for leadership and guidance when we were doing other things as a patrol, and it was really eye-opening for me to see that from older boys. And at that point in my life, I knew I had leadership skills, but I never really put them to the test until this point. And it was at this point in my life that I realized I could lead, and even older and more experienced would listen. Now I'd like to talk to you about my Eagle project. So the main influence for my project was from an older scout. He collected about 400 pounds of food and raised money to install shelving and a refrigerator for one of our little food pantries in the town. And I saw how successful that was and how many people he helped and how long-lasting his project was, or is. It's still there. And I decided that I really wanted to do something that could help the community the way he did. So in last last fall, I set up 2 Saturdays in October to collect food at the Festival of Foods next to my high school. And I also arranged organized three weeks at my high school to collect food in the month of October, November, and December. And the month of November was right before Thanksgiving, and it was by far the most successful. I collected about 300 pounds at my school alone. And in total, for that part of my project, I collected 5,255 pounds of food for the Salvation Army and the Hunger Task Force of La Crosse. And the second part of my EGO project, I raised money and collected information to create 10,000 brochures that had the contact for information for all of the local food pantries here in La Crosse. The reason I did this was because when I was collecting food, people didn't know that there were 60 plus food pantries here in La Crosse area. And I was just so surprised at that number myself that I really wanted to make it possible for people either who need food or want to donate to have a resource that they could go to donate or get food. And so I decided to create these brochures. They're all over La Crosse. There are brochures at all of the schools in La Crosse School District, as well as some local churches and other community organizations like the Salvation Army and the YMCA. To raise money for the creation of these brochures, I hosted a spaghetti dinner fundraiser at my church, and we raised $796 for the creation of these brochures. And the best part was I got really lucky, and we, with the help of my mom, we contacted Vistaprint, who made the brochures, and they gave us a charity discount, which meant we received 10,000 brochures for $500. So with the extra money from this fundraiser, I went and bought more food. All right. My project really helped me experience and focus my leadership skills and improve upon my communication skills, because I had to talk to so many people to even just ask to use their facilities and use their employees and stuff like that to do my project. It really helped and showed me a lot of how the world works. And as a 16 and 17-year-old, that's pretty cool. Right. Next, I'd like to share a little bit about my experiences working at Camp Decorah. For 3 years now, I've worked as a counselor with boys ages 11 through 17 on scout skills from knot tying to rifle shooting to wilderness survival. During my experiences at the great Camp Decorah, I have learned a great deal about working with kids, and most importantly, what I want to do with the rest of my life. Almost entirely because of camp, I have decided to become a teacher. I have learned that I have a very strong natural teaching skills, and that was something I was not aware of before working at Camp Decorah. And in conclusion, scouting has brought out the best in me and has shown me what I am good at. Most importantly, helps me to develop skills in areas I do not naturally excel. Scouting has helped me find my confidence. It has given me amazing leadership skills and has shown me how to organize my time. I have learned how to use my skills to do something about issues that I care about, such as helping those in need and choosing to be a teacher for my career.